Hello, and welcome back to CS 492F about futures of the world. Let us recall our last session and then proceed to some futurologists. That's our plan for today. Remember, in futurology, our focus is on asymptotics because they're well-known many examples where the details of the evolution cannot be predicted, but some long-term properties can. Properties like what will happen eventually, what will happen inevitably. And actually, this perspective is motivated from the study of dynamical systems, like many body systems, where again, simulating determine the position of every single particle is a well-known art, but predicting its asymptotic long-term behavior, that is often feasible by means of a stability analysis, like attractors, determining attractor, determining basins of attraction. And this mathematical concept is now applied to a more general setting of asymptotic futurology. So we may not be interested in when such an effect happens or how such an effect happens. And this is also basically the same as Elon Musk's approach, thinking from first principles. So, and an example we discussed is about the tunnel between Korea and Japan. So when I was in elementary and even middle school, people had been discussing about the tunnel between Europe and England for centuries. So this tunnel had been discussed, and when I graduated from high school, that's when the building actually started the process. So when I was young, it was again inevitable. It was foreseeable that there, at one point, there's going to be such a tunnel. Only when that tunnel would be come, that was a question. And nowadays we all have the Eurotunnel. Similarly, the wall between East and West Germany, it was well known and inevitable that at one point this wall would go away. The only surprising thing was that it happened so quickly in 1989. So the tunnel between Korea and Japan is still an engineering challenge. The first piece is feasible, that's about 50 kilometers, but the second part is still an engineering challenge. Easier is going to be a electrical cable connecting the power grid of Japan, power grids of Japan and Korea, and that's going to be I guess, earlier than the tunnel. So with this example and recap from last lecture about asymptotic futurology, let's now move on to discuss some examples of futurologists and their predictions. And so here you see a list of futurologists. But first, actually many futurologists in the past were kind of double timing as science fiction authors, because that was a very convenient way of conveying their visions, their ideas outside of an academic realm. Futurology is not yet academic discipline. So, and in the realm of science fiction, one distinguishes between hard science fiction and soft science fiction. And the focus and the distinction is that hard science fiction tries to be scientifically, and that means technologically accurate. So obey the laws of physics, point out the laws of physics, obey the laws of natural sciences, no fantasy. On the other hand, there's soft science fiction, which focuses not on the scientific part, not on the technology, not on the natural science physics, but it focuses on psychology, on characters, on social sciences, and possible fantasies. And I think both have their merit. So, for example, hard science fiction, Jules Verne wrote this famous piece of hard science fiction, The Journey to the Moon, where he envisioned what we nowadays call, have implemented as multi-stage rocket, right? So he imagined a cannon being fired towards the moon, and the projectile of the cannon itself being again another cannon to further accelerate during the flight, right? So a cannon can only shoot once, and then the projectile has to move on through its inertia. And he imagined that the projectile itself will be another smaller cannon, and thus attain further acceleration during the flight, and so on. Whereas soft science fiction is kind of imagining different ways of organizing society and psychological aspects, and both have their merits. And of course, the best science fiction is what combines both of them. And that being said, today we're going to talk a lot about Stanisław Lem, who indeed combined both aspects in his fiction. Then we'll maybe next time we'll get to Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov, Robert Heinlein, Ray Bradbury, and Philip K. Dick. So that's our vision, our perspective. But for now, let's start talking about Stanisław Lem. Stanisław Hermann Lem, as he was called with his middle name. Here you see a picture in his working office, right? True, veritable polymath, as you see. He was born in 1921 in Lvov. Nowadays, Lvov is part of Ukraine. At that point in time, it was not. And he died in 2006 in Krakow, Poland. And according to Wikipedia, a key recurring theme in his oeuvre is the shortcomings of humans. So that's definitely a part of soft science fiction. But also there's a lot of hard science fiction. Okay, so let's stop here for a moment to show you some videos about Stanisław Lem.
A dream will always triumph over reality once it's given the chance. Stanisław Lem was a Polish science fiction writer, philosopher, and essayist who was widely recognized for his unique and imaginative writing style. He died in March 2006 from a heart failure, and the Polish Parliament declared 2021 Stanisław Lem Year. New Scientist wrote about his famous book Summa Technologiae, his masterwork of non-fiction. It's amazing how much Lem got right, or even predicted. This ranges across artificial intelligence, the theory of search engines, he called it ariadnology, bionics, virtual reality, phantomatics, technological singularity, and nanotechnology. Thank you for your attention.
Internet, il en a parlé en 1954. Les téléphones portables, les moteurs de recherche, il les a décrits en 1955 dans son roman Le nuage de Magellan. Non, ce n'est pas un Philippe K. Dick ou Isaac Asimov, mais Stanisław Lem, un auteur de SF polonais, beaucoup moins connu, mais tout aussi visionnaire.
Na oczach poczerniałych ze wstydu i wściekłości królów oba wojska chrząknęły, wzięły się pod ręce i poszły na spacer, zrywając kwiaty pod ciągnącymi chmurami na polu niedoszłej bitwy.
Cette pirouette de fin optimiste reflétant l'espoir de paix de Lem appartient-elle à notre futur? Dans un monde plus polarisé que jamais, rien n'est moins sûr.
Because he managed to predict the future and the development in the technology that is included equally in his novels and short stories from one side, and in his fundamental works like dialogues and Summa Technologiae, which are entirely dedicated to the deployment of technology. But to point some examples, for instance, he managed to predict e-book readers. And this is absolutely astonishing, not only the facts, but the way he describes it. So let me have a quotation, because I don't have entire quotation in my mind, but you can read, "The books were crystals with recorded contents. They can be read with the aid of an option, which was similar to a book, but had only one page between the covers. At a touch, successive pages of the text appeared on it."
It's absolutely
This is absolutely, but this is published.
Exactly.
This is published in 1961, and at that time,
as if he actually has seen the reader.
Yes, we didn't have anything of the devices we are not surrendered with. We didn't have computers, we didn't have telephones, we didn't have internet. We didn't even have any digital devices. They were all analog. So, and the computers were huge as the wardrobes and stored in big air-conditioned rooms, and their capacity was smaller than the capacity of a calculator you can buy in any shop that the kids buy for school. Yes, they are using it at school. He also predicted audiobooks. He predicted computer games. He predicted internet. He was convinced that computers will be combined in huge international and intercontinental networks. They will exchange resources. He predicted smartphones, three-dimensional printers. So very many specific achievements in technology, and this is absolutely astonishing. So you can see that he understands how we are able to explore nature and which technological achievements can be put into practice in what way.
So he understood not only the world as it was in the 1960s, but in which are the basically the doors in order to develop which way the world and our knowledge and capacity can go. And that's mostly to the passing through the information which he has seen, because all of this is the computer games, the audiobooks, the smartphones, the Wi-Fi. It's in fact this need of a human being to pass information quicker, like shorter to each other and be more connected. And that's what he's seen.
Yes, so for instance, he has foreseen not only the internet as a computer net combined with each other between the continents, but also huge internet resources that anybody can have access to. He also predicted that we will be putting everything into internet that we have at hand, and 90% of this will be garbage. So this is exactly how human nature works, and he was aware of that.
Well, it's all very actually also interesting, but I would say challenging, and in a way there is a deep feeling of unaware and distress when you listen to it. As Stanisław Lem so well understood the human nature. And of course, to you, the viewers of Poland Daily, if you want to have if you want to travel to the future and have a look in which way the world will develop, maybe you can read it out of the books of Stanisław Lem, because he has seen so much, and I'm sure that there is even more in his books which still didn't happen yet, but will. And thank you very much for watching Film Daily.
Yes, so when Stanisław Lem was about 35 to 40 years old, this is what computer technology looked like at that time. And at that time, he wrote some of the most visionary novels, both hard and soft science fiction, with many important predictions. So here you see these three novels. One is Return from the Stars. One is called Dialogy, and one is called, I forgot what that means in English, I'm sorry. Right. So in these novels, he described what we would nowadays call an ebook. He described audiobooks. He described, and this is a quote, gradual accumulation of informatic machines and banks of memory leads to establishing state, continental, and later planetary computer nets. So that means he predicted, successfully predicted databases, and he predicted internet, right? Databases, internet, and he also predicted search engines. Maybe Trine can store not only luminescent images reduced to change in their crystal structure, that is images of book pages, but all kinds of photographs, maps, images, graphs, and tables. In other words, anything that can be observed by sight. Just as easily, Trine can store sounds, the human voice as well as music. There's also a way to record scents. So Trine is the system that Lem is predicting, envisioning, and that stores all this kind of photographs, match images, graph, and tables. This is kind of the internet and searching the internet, but he goes beyond that, right? Trine can also store sounds. Well, that's true. The internet can also store sounds, and we can also search sounds, right? That was that famous application to search and compare sounds. And what has not been realized, that is sense, smell, right? So that is yet to be realized. So maybe you can make a patent out of it, recording and storing and comparing sense. Anyway, so that was his prediction from these three books. He also predicted smartphones and 3D printers. Yes, as I said, a key theme is shortcomings of humans, and he wrote several novels about the failure of humans to communicate with possible aliens. So here, for example, Klaus Panna, his master's voice, is a novel where by pure chance, scientists discover a signal from space that could be a statement from other rational beings, aliens. How can we read this message without knowing anything about the senders? What if we are not even sure whether they exist? So that's a illustration of the difficulties in communication, and maybe you also experience such difficulties when trying to communicate with foreigners, right? This is not just the language, knowing the language, but there's a lot of subtext underlying communication. And when communicating with foreigners, they have an entirely different subtext, and this makes communication so intrinsically difficult. Another book is this book, Eden. And in this book, a starship crash lands on an alien world they call Eden. After escaping their wrecked ship, they set out to explore the planet, first traveling through an unsettling wilderness and coming upon an abandoned automated factory. There they find a constant cycle of materials being produced and then destroyed and recycled. Why? This is something that the spaceship crew is wondering about, but of course the local aliens wouldn't question that, or this is puzzling only for outsiders. And similarly, many things for us are puzzling when we travel to a different country. Why do they do things in a different way? Perplexed, they return to their ship. At the quest site, they find a local sentient alien and try to start communicating with the alien. But as I said, already communicating with foreigners on Earth, it turns out to be very difficult, and communicating with an alien, in the end, spoiler alert, they manage to grasp the language, but still they fail to understand all the cultural background behind the communication. Hence, we get to know the mysterious planet step by step, its nature, its culture, and even its political system. Yet, the most important issue seems the skepticism with respect to the possibility of mutual comprehension. The very difference of respective technologies prevents newcomers and locals from understanding each other. And this is right. And any foreign student here at KSW may find this very similar. Even with best efforts, it's very difficult to understand each other, and language is only one of the many possible obstacles. And then there's Solaris. Yes, and we're running out of time. So let's close with the movie Solaris, talking about the movie Solaris, but also let me mention that Lem wrote about a Futurological Congress, the 5th and 6th Congress of Futurologists, right? So in his novel, there exists such a thing as futurology as an academic discipline. Okay. So conclude.